Hi, I'm Steinke and I welcome you to my harness maker's workshop. Welcome. And what have we got today? Trade harness. In days of old, a lot of the traders would have very fancy, colourful harness. Here's one I made earlier. No, it isn't old. It was made last week. But in the style of the old trade harness. It was a bit like all the gaily coloured vans that you get now for the deliveries. Well, they had the same colours, the little models there. That's Express Stairy, and there's a couple more I'll show you here. And when they went out, they liked to have some bright harness. A lot of it is still in existence, but regularly needs a bit of top up and a bit of TLC. I used to know Bob Giddon, and he did, Giddens, a lot of trade harness, which I get in occasionally now. So I keep all the patterns and I tried to renovate it as true to the style as possible. And I'm going to drop the camera down now. You'll see on the workbench the stages I do, and there is a funny little story about some funny little furry animal. Join me and you'll find out exactly what the little devil did. Now, I'll come on to what our furry little friend did in a minute. But when I'm renovating harness, it's often you can see the drops that have shown age, and I use the same pattern, if I can, the same buckles and ornaments to recreate the harness. It all starts with, as I say again and again, the pattern. That's one that I keep and use regularly. There is another one, and you can see that's a Giddens of London, and that is the middle part of the face drop that would go there, and that would be built up, made with round supports that you can see here. And then when it's finished, there is a little revolving sun that was very famous for Giddens. That would just be popped on there, and there's some fancy stitching there, and that would be as true to the original design of Giddens in the 50s and the 60s and even before that as you'll ever get. So when I'm making a new one up, I start with the pattern, put it onto the patent leather, and I'll drop this down a little bit more there. You can see that better now. Now I've marked it out, and then I cut it out with my nice big bright shears here, and you start with the pattern. It's then glued on to a piece of backing leather bigger than itself. It'll be trimmed in a minute. That is machined up twice round, and then I use my half knife here to trim round it, and I end up with the pattern like that. Now that could be used as a face drop, but a lot of them had what's called kidney beaters. They hung over the back of the horse, and it just gave a little bit of sparkle. You might have 3 of them, 1, 2, pretending this one's finished, 3 in a row there. So all of these things come in to be repaired, and there is another little, that's a bakery van, the baker, and one that is known to all of us, Harrods, and I believe they were one of the last horse-drawn delivery services in London. And they used to have a nice big pair of Frisians that went around, but no, those days are gone. So what I'm going to show you now is just what some furry little friend did. And here we have our furry little friend. No, it's not a mouse, it's a rat. And do you want to see what he got up to? Well, here we are. He chewed up this set of harness. If I can prop that up there. And I'll go even closer now. Here we are. This is what Mr. Ratty did. He chewed away at all the leather that he could get his big teeth into. You can see he chewed through that. That's the breeching that goes around the back of the harness. Not a lot left of the original one. The middle one there is the one I did using the old fittings to renovate it. Here we've got the kidney beaters. I just said they might have 3 or 4. There's 4 there. They were in a terrible state when I got them. And there is a connecting strap with every bit chewed up. And that is the part of the end when I'd finished it. Nice drop for the breeching, new leather on the buckles. Keep the old buckles. They're rather nice. They're in the shape of a horseshoe. You see them there? And the loops of these are metal, as you can see in the picture, and there they are now. They're called fancy metal loops. And the other thing they have is leather loops at times, whereas you might have, oh, where are we? A piece of leather in the middle of 2 loops, and you get that sort of effect. I make these little leather ones up because I think they're rather nice to keep the tradition of how it was done in the olden days. So I'm going to lift the camera up now, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to show you a picture show of some of the good and the bad that I've had to do. Bad first when it came in, and I think most of the customers were quite happy when I did the renovation, either in the red or the yellow. And I'll be back in a minute after the film show. we are. Hope you enjoyed the picture show. It isn't all just, get nice leather in and make some new harness. Often it's, well, see what you can do with the old and preserve it. It's a heritage craft, saddlery and harness making, and I believe we really should look after some of the older artifacts, antique now, including some of the harness makers like myself. But anyway, you don't see many horses on the roads in London, except for the police, maybe for crowds, and the military exercising in London. But doing this video, it brought to me an old anecdote of my dear dad. And he was a keen gardener, and I can always remember him. There was a rag and bone man coming, and he gave me a shovel and a bucket and said, "Follow that horse." And I wasn't allowed back to the house until I'd followed the horse. He'd lifted his tail, manured, I'd shoveled it up, taken it back to Dad for his garden. He was very grateful. He grew some great flowers and veg, did Dad. So yeah, it's funny how things come along, and you know, you reminisce over it. So now they have well, there used to be in London a harness horse parade, but with the traffic and everything, it's now been relocated down south. But I've got in my collection, it's a badge, a merit badge, the RSPCA London Cart Horse Parade 1936. It's embossed. It isn't a reproduction. That is absolutely real. The light is coming through these windows like mad this time filming, so I think you can see that there. So I think it's a lovely brass. Well, it isn't actually brass, it's white metal and very light, so it's an alloy or something. So thank you very much for being with me, and think of some other things for next time. And if you could, as normal, I say, pop your finger on the subscribe button. It'd be much appreciated. Okay, so thank you for being with me, and look forward to seeing you all again. Okay, cheerio.